Hey guys, it's Miss Ware again. Got another recorded video for you guys to prepare you for your test on Thursday. In this video, I'm going to be talking about parts of a graph, so parts of a bar graph and parts of a picture graph. And we're going to go over how to use the data from the graph to answer questions. So first I'm going to go over the parts of a graph here. We've got this visual. I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing this one. It labels the parts of the graph very nicely. We've got our title here at the top, our x-axis here at the bottom, our y-axis here on the left that's going up and down. It also has our labels for the y-axis and our label for the x-axis as well. And we have our interval. I'm going to do a speedy run through of the vocabulary for this skill, and then we're going to go over how to interpret the bar and picture graphs. So first we have the title that tells you what the graph is about, the x-axis, which is the categories that are being measured. The x-axis tells you the categories that are being measured. The y-axis is the number of items in each category, or the frequency, how often something occurs. And lastly, we have our scale, which is the interval used on the y-axis, or the number used to represent one unit on the graph. So now we're going to go over using a bar graph to answer questions. We're going to use the bar graph that you see here on the screen, and wait a second. Looks like this bar graph is missing a couple of things. Let me fix that. Much better. So, this bar graph was missing a title, and it was missing the labels for the x and the y-axis. How are people going to know what the bar is even telling us? So now I've got a title, How Students Get to School. I've got a label for my y-axis, which tells me the number of students, and I've got a label for my x-axis, which tells me the categories that are listed. I got all of this information from the sentence right here at the bottom. A group of students at Parkside Elementary School made a bar graph to show how they got to school. Now we're going to use that same graph to answer some questions. The first question is, how many students ride their bicycle to school? I'm going to pull out my bar graph and I'm going to see how many students are in the category for bicycle. I find the bar right here, right above the word bicycle, and I see that it's lined up right with the 30 here on the y-axis. So that means 30 students rode their bicycle to school. So I can write 30 here on this line, but if I want to be a rock star student, like I know all of you are, I'm going to write my answer in a complete sentence that restates the question. So the question is, how many students ride their bicycle to school? I'll say 30 students ride their bicycle to school. All right, that one was pretty easy. Let's try a more difficult one. How many more students take the bus to school than take the train? So there are some key words in this one that I'm going to highlight. How many more and than. How many more students? So that means I'll probably have to do subtraction. I'm going to find the difference between two things. But the difference between what? Let me pull out my other highlighter. So the difference between the number of students who take the bus and who take the train. I can get all this information from my bar graph. So I'll pull that up, and first I'll find the number of students who take the bus to school. So here at the bar that's just above the word bus, I see that it's lined up with 35 on my y-axis. So that means 35 students took the bus or take the bus to school. So I'll put a 35 there. And how many students take the train? So I'll go back to my graph and I'll see train is right here and it lines up with the 20 on my y-axis. So I'll put a 20 here. So 35 students take the bus and 20 students take the train. Am I done? No. So they asked me how many more students take the bus. So what's the difference between 35 and 20? 35 is how many more than 20? I can answer that by doing some quick subtraction. Now, if you want to use some mental math strategies to answer this, awesome, and I definitely think you should do that. But if you need to, go ahead and line them up like we would with our imaginary place value chart, and we'll do our math this way. 5 minus 0 is 5, 3 minus 2 is 1. So how many more students take the bus to school than take the train? 15 students take the bus. 15 more students take the bus than take the train. And because we're all Rockstar students, I'm going to type it out just like you would. 15 more students take the bus than take the train. Awesome. In this example, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do it with a picture graph. So picture graphs are similar to bar graphs. They can be used to show data. They can be used to compare categories. And they have similar parts as well. In this picture graph, you see it's got a title up here, number of audience members, and it's got categories, days of the week, Monday through Friday. Instead of a scale, like we see in the bar graph, we have a key. The key is a picture or symbol that tells us, that represents a certain amount. In this particular picture graph, we have a smiley face, and that represents 100 persons or 100 people. I'll read this little paragraph here for us before we answer some questions. The theater recorded the numbers of audience members who attended this week's play. Read the pictograph and answer the questions below. Note, each symbol in the pictograph stands for 100 persons. So we're going to move on over and answer just a couple of questions. So we've got our picture graph there. First question, how many audience members does this symbol represent? So if I look at my key here at the bottom, one whole smiley face equals 100 people or 100 persons. So that means half of a smiley must represent half of 100. Well, half of 100 is 50, so I'll go ahead and write my answer here. Half of a smiley represents 50 people. All right, so that one's super easy. On what day did the theater have the fewest audience members? The cool thing about pictographs and bar graphs is I can see just by looking at it with a quick glance which one is the smallest and which one is the biggest or which one has the most. I can see that Monday had the fewest number of audience members. I'm going to go ahead and skip that question since I know you guys can answer that one on your own. I'm going to go to a tougher one. So let's see. How many audience members attended the theater from Tuesday to Thursday? So I'm going to open up my bar graph. Let's see. I can count all of these up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I counted 27 whole smiley faces, but notice I skipped these two halves. I can combine these two halves to make a whole. So 27, 28. So 28 smiley faces. But I know that I know that each smiley face represents 100 people. So I can just multiply those numbers. We haven't gotten to multiplication yet, so a quick trick, and I'll show you this, and we won't have problems this tough on the test. But a quick trick we can do is I'll take 28 and I'll just put 2 zeros on the end. So 2,800 audience members attended the theater from Tuesday to Thursday. All right. So we practice skip counting by 100, and you can certainly do that when answering questions like this. But this is just a quick overview of using the pictograph to answer questions.